Thank you for joining us, Councilman Dickens. We're going to discuss crime first here. How much of the crime rate do you think is pandemic related?
Yeah, a pretty good amount of the violent crime rate increase that we've seen is related to the time around the pandemic. We've had several years of low crime. 2017, when I was public safety chairman, we actually hit a 40-year low in crime. 2018 we were down, 2019 we were down. In the early part of 2020 we were down until the pandemic and also the George Floyd verdict. Nationwide crime went up. And a series of things related to isolation, depression, confusion, and also gang activity increased with our kids in schools being virtual. And then some kids just meandered out into the streets and got involved in some things that weren't productive. And so I think a lot of this crime that we're seeing is pandemic related, but I'm hoping that this is not the new normal. When the pandemic is gone, we still have to get rid of this crime.
You've said that you have the head, the heart, and the hands to lead this city. What makes your head, heart, and hands different than your opponent when it comes to restoring public safety?
Yeah, so the city has to, have a leader that can manage competing interests. It's a lot of different people, a lot of different businesses and interests related to our city. And so those folks may, in one part of town may say, law and order, and another part of town may say, hey, we need restorative justice and we also need good, community-based policing. Well, you have to have a head, a heart, and a hands to be able to deliver to all of those competing ways of saying, make us safe. People all across the city, not just Buckhead, not just here or there, everyone wants to be safe and they want to have themselves feel heard by their government. And so making safety a reality is what I've done before in 2017 by establishing walk and talks is what I called it. It's now called community-based policing, but walk and talks when we required the zones to go out and walk with the community members, neighborhood associations, clergy as well as youth, and go out there and point out problems, loiterers or people that do illegal activities, even things like street lights being out. That made a condition on the ground. The environment got better and people were able to see each other and really have phone numbers of police sergeants and captains to be able to relay information faster. But also it meant that the community had a stake in the game, that we were all invested in making sure the community was safe. Now, of course, we have to continue to establish and reestablish police morale. That's why I go to the roll calls and talk to the officers and make sure I understand what they're dealing with. And then
your opponent has mentioned that as well.
Yes. Well, that's good that she has. And so the heart is also about making sure that we have a balanced approach to safety and justice, because we did have cases across this nation where there was excessive use of force. So I support our police officers, but I also will hold them accountable. And that's the heart that the community wants. And the hands is I have my Safe Streets plan that can go into action right as I get elected.
You and your opponent have differing views on the fate of the police chief. She wants to name someone new, and you have said that Chief Rodney Bryant can stay, but he'll be on a 100-day contract to show how he's reducing crime, recruiting, retaining officers, conducting community policing, which you just spoke about. Right. He's been leading the department for more than a year now. Why not make a decision based on how he's performing now?
Yeah, I think it's overly simplistic to say just cut him off right now. We actually just want the outcomes, the policing to work for us, to make sure that our violent crime rate goes down, no matter who's in charge. And I think it's irresponsible to immediately, while we're in this political season, which means that only a month from now this decision will be made.
But why 100 days? He's been doing the job for a while now.
Yeah, so I believe that the point of the matter is police are rank and file and they follow chain of command. And so if you give them the notion right now that they have a shaky and unstable leadership condition, then who do they go to for their support? So I'm not giving any indication as to I'm just going to fire the chief on January 2nd when I walk into the January 3rd when inaugurated. It's best to say here's the conditions that we want. We want safety. We want to make sure we're recruiting. We want to retain officers, and we want to make sure this violent crime wave goes down. And so if that's being achieved, then with new leadership, with me being mayor, I think that the possibility that the chief has 100 days to demonstrate that makes more sense to me.
Vigilantism and self-defense Both of those issues have surged back into the national forefront here around race for weeks now. We're talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the Ahmaud Arbery case. Both are at the core of those cases, vigilantism and also self-defense. As mayor, how would you lead the city and address this tough conversation with police and also residents?
Yeah, this is something that I put in my statement. The Rittenhouse decision, that verdict was disturbing to me, and I think they got it wrong. It sent a message to the whole United States that an armed person can go across state lines, be driven there to go to a protest and end up killing people and hurting others, that's allowable. And I know that, I've made a statement and my opponent has made a statement, and people have, got her to take her statement down by basically, saying that statement was incorrect, and then she put it up and took it back down. For me, I made my statement and it's true. That was a bad decision. I think the verdict didn't go the way that the public truly needs it to go. And so while I'm very watchful of any of the other case that we have looming right now. And so trying to make sure that the city of Atlanta lets the world know that we're the birthplace of civil rights, we're the birthplace of human rights, and we're also the birthplace of how we push out this criminal justice reform. Vigilantism, where people are armed, running around and killing unarmed people, is not going to be tolerated or allowed. We want to restore the peace, and the peace means that unarmed people can't be just killed by folks that are driving around in a pickup truck ready to call themselves cops for the day. We've seen that before with Trayvon Martin and some other cases, and these things have been lightning rods to really tear at the core fabric of who we are as a nation when we try to bring things together and people are killed by armed vigilantes. Yeah.